Welcome to this quick tutorial on how to find out what version of Centeo Control Center you're running. So launch the software, go to the help, click about, and hopefully you're running version 2.2. If you're not, contact Centeo at www.centeo.com and we'll give you the updated version. Now, why would you want to update? It's because this software is compatible with Windows 7 backwards, so that's kind of important to you, and it does have some new features. So if I just start a new experiment, maybe we can see some of those new features. So File, New, Experiment Title. Some of the features that are not in the old version of the software are things like you can control the save rate. So if you're going to be running an experiment for months on end, you might only want a temperature data point, for example, every minute. Therefore that number could be 20, because 20 times 3 is every minute. If you only want it every 3 minutes, then make that 60, and you can scale accordingly. The reason you want to do that is because you don't really want very, very large files at the end of a several week or several month experiment, so that's why that number is important to you. So I'll set that back to being 1 minute. The other improvement in the system is if you're only interested in controlling the temperature within 0.5, then you can have a warning limit set at 0.5. If you're really not so concerned about temperature, you can expand those limits. I'll put that back at 0.5. Now, this is an important feature that the software asks you two questions, and you can actually override this, but it's going to ask you two questions. The first question it's going to ask you is, what's the relative humidity? This is important because if it's a very humid atmosphere and you're trying to run at 2 degrees Celsius, you're going to cause precipitation because of the dew point of the water in the atmosphere. So if I'm in a lab and let's say it's cold, it's wet outside rather, it's 65%, and the temperature in the lab is 22 degrees Celsius. What does that do? That means that the unit can operate between 12 degrees and 60 degrees because it knows what temperature that the moisture in the atmosphere is going to precipitate at. Now, if you're in a air-conditioned lab and you can reduce that to, let's say, 50%, I'll stick at the 22 degrees. You can see it's decreased the temperature that the unit will operate at. Now if you have yourself in a very nice, I'll reduce this to 40%, keep that at 22, you can see that it stays at 60, but if I can reduce that to 35% and I'll reduce this to 20, it then allows you to do 4 degrees upwards, and that's a good range. You know, people like to work between 4 degrees and let's say room temperature, so you know, being in a air-conditioned room at 35% with a ambient temperature of 20 degrees gives you a good working range. Now if you put this into a sort of room at 18 degrees, then you can you have an even better range in operation again. Some people have these in anaerobic chambers where the relative humidity can be really, really low because it's basically in a dry atmosphere. So we haven't hardwired this into the system because you can override it. And why would you want to do that? Well, if you were working in, let's say, a 50% humidity atmosphere and it's 20 degrees Celsius and you wanted to go lower than 4 degrees, if you just were going to go there briefly just to initiate nucleation, for example, you could tell the software that it was drier and cooler than it actually was. And then that would give you the ability to sort of drop that temperature down. So that's why we haven't put it in there. We haven't hardwired that in there to give you that option to use, your judgment. So, in summary, if you want to know what version of software you're running, just click the help, go to about. It should be running version 2.2. And why would you want to do that? There are some new features in the software. It allows you to change the save rate, allows you to change the warning limits around how far away from the set points you are, and it also importantly asks this question about relative humidity. And as I say, you can use your judgment to override that. That's your choice, but it's in the new version of the software. Okay, thanks very much. And if you have any questions regarding the software, please contact us through the website at www.centeo.com. Thank you very much.